Hello and welcome to Double Feature Reviews. I'm Libby.
I'm David.
And today we're talking about Funny Face and Phantom Thread. And this is the first time in several episodes where both of us have seen both of the films before talking about it.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. I think I've seen Funny Face one time before when we watched it together. We might have gone to see Phantom Thread in the theaters together.
Yes, we saw it in theaters in Amsterdam.
And then I think I saw it once again after that on my own.
Yeah, I had seen Funny Face. I binged it maybe 3 or 4 times when we got the DVD from Netflix, back when that was a thing that one did. And then we watched it as a double feature with, I think, maybe American in Paris.
I think that's right. I remember, surprisingly, at the time, really finding myself enjoying Funny Face and absolutely detesting An American in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So that contrast is definitely burned into my mind.
Do have the same director, yes?
Yes.
Stanley Donen also did American in Paris.
That's right. Stanley Donen was Gene Kelly's number one guy until he and Gene got on bad terms with each other. And so perhaps unsurprisingly, if you know much about the relationship between Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire, which wasn't very good, Stanley decided that now that he and Gene were fighting, he and Fred were best friends.
Okay. And then Phantom Thread, we saw in the theaters when it came out in the Netherlands, so like a couple months after it came out in the US. So probably, I remember being really cold on the walk over. So probably like January or February.
Yeah, I remember
of
it being very
2018.
cold, yeah.
And then I watched it again in theaters like 2 weeks later because my mom was visiting. So we watched it without you. And I was like, this is a movie my mom would probably like. And she did like it, though she was a little confused at the end. And I did find it really helpful to rewatch it in pretty close span now that I knew what I was getting into.
It's a dense movie. There's a lot of going on and a lot of it's subtle. Yeah, I could see your mom really enjoying the surface level of that movie. The surface level she would absolutely love.
And what title did you give to the pairing of these two films, to this double feature?
My title for the double feature is What Were You Wearing? And it's both a reference to the fact that fashion and clothes and appearance and the way one is viewed by others are totally central to both the surface level and the deeper level of these plots. And also how both stories have a complicated relation with the issue of consent and the issue of abusive relationships and how they are not shy about that problem. They take it on head on with varying results.
Very good. I have given these two the title Making Over the Makeover Movie. Because I think the first one, Funny Face, is a very conventional makeover movie, and Phantom Thread is trying to subvert the tropes at every possible avenue.
Excellent analysis. Yes. Do you think, I guess maybe we'll come back to this at the end, but I think there's an interesting question how much Phantom Thread is trying to directly respond maybe to a movie like Funny Face and is trying to bring down some of the mystique of the world of high fashion, I guess would be part of it, and to question the character of our beautiful ingenue and her appropriate role in a story.
Yeah, and maybe this is just because of when I was born, but I think of the 90s as being the 90s and maybe early 2000s as being the high point of the makeover movie.
Yeah, I think it's sort of 1985 to 2005.
Okay.
I think you're right. But
so we didn't include a movie from that period.
I mean, part of it's just that that's really the period of cheap clothes and of consumerism being the dominant ethic of the culture.
That's right, post-Reagan. I think Funny Face is a very iconic makeover movie. It's maybe the best makeover movie from the 50s. But it's not or at least the most famous makeover, the biggest.
What are the other makeover movies
but
from the 50s?
I don't think of the 50s as being a huge makeover time. I think makeover movies have been with us since at least the 30s. I think Cinderella is kind of a makeover story. So as long as we've been making Cinderella stories, we've been doing makeover movies. But I think it's kind of gone out of fashion. Ha 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 ha. And PTA was like, okay, I've had enough time to think about this phenomenon. Now I can make my own movie about it. If you haven't seen either of these movies, David is going to tell you about them so that you know what we're talking about for the rest of the pod.
That's right. To help you imagine or remember these movies, as a quick summary here. So, Funny Face is shot in a lush and dynamic style. The story is that in pre-60s New York, an intellectual bookstore manager is convinced to join the world of Paris fashion in order to visit the bohemian hipster philosopher Flostra. In the first scene, Mrs. Prescott, or Miss Prescott, the overbearing editor of the fashion magazine Quality, issues a company-wide announcement about their issue's next direction. Think pink. And in the final scene, after Joe, the bookstore manager, models the wedding dress from Quality's latest collection, Miss Prescott tells photographer Dick Avery that he can still win Joe's heart by thinking about things from her side. And he rushes off to the chapel where they cemented their love and finds her to embrace. Phantom Thread is shot in an elegant and natural style. The story is that in post-war London, a Jewish immigrant waitress becomes the new muse for an overbearing high-fashion designer, but refuses to live by his controlling rules. In the first scene, Alma, the immigrant, tells their doctor that the romance between her and Reynolds has made them both happy. And then we see Reynolds' exacting morning routine. In the final scene, Alma tells their doctor that if Reynolds died, she wouldn't be upset, because she knows he would be waiting for her in the next life. And then we see her and Reynolds sharing a happy life and a baby. And Reynolds tells us that he's hungry. It's a bit difficult to do the first and final scene for Phantom Thread because there's like a framing device and a lot of complicated cinematography that skips between different times of images and talking. So, yeah, that's the basic idea of our first and final scene, but there's more going on.
But we're not going to worry about that for now. We're going to start with the much more straightforward Funny Face. This is a 1957 film directed by Stanley Donen, written by Leonard Gersh. It stars Audrey Hepburn as Jo Stockton, and this is the first time that someone from the first episode of our podcast has returned as a double. Welcome back, Audrey. It also stars Fred Astaire as Dick Avery, or as the French say, Dick Avary. Kay Thompson in one of her only film roles, her only major film role, as Maggie Prescott. And Michelle Auclair as Professor Emile Flostre.
So Funny Face is based on a 1927 musical. Gershwin.
Loosely based.
Very loosely based Gershwin musical that starred Fred Astaire in 1927, along with his sister, Adele. And they were one of the most famous entertainment duos in the world at the time. And yeah, the musical plot has really absolutely nothing to do with this movie. There's like a safe, and he's the guardian of his three sisters, and there's pearls and a diary, and they're stealing in it. There's hijinks ensue. Nothing to do with this movie.
Presumably not a romance because the leads are real life siblings.
Yes, it's not primarily a romance. It's a domestic drama, but the parents are dead, so it's just the kids. And several of the songs from Funny Face are included in this. The song Funny Face, probably most famously the song is So Wonderful, however you want to pronounce that. Swonderful. But the plot and the characters are totally disconnected. There was also another revival of the original Funny Face musical in the 80s that also ended up having a totally separate plot that had nothing to do with it.
Well, this is a big feature of like Golden Age musicals. A musical was a collection of songs put together by, let's face it, probably the Gershwins. They were doing a bunch of them. The Gershwins sort of had a collection of songs which they would pull from to make into a story, and occasionally write new songs specific to the film, which then entered their archives that they could pull from. I think to a mid-century person, the fact that the plot is totally different doesn't matter, because this is still Funny Face, because it's the songs from Funny Face. Really early musicals, like pre-Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, and even to a certain extent concurrently with Rodgers and Hammerstein, musicals were just like a reed-thin plot that you are meant to string catchy song and dance numbers onto. And it's the song and dance numbers that people are really here for. And whatever goofy story you need to make happen in order to have an excuse to sing and dance, that's fine. So yeah, a musical was the songs, not the plot.
The film was shot from April to July of 1956 on a $3 million budget. And there were a lot of people from the world of fashion who got involved in the film. The character of Dick Avery is directly based on Richard Avedon, however you pronounce that name, who was the world's leading fashion photographer at the time, and
he did the fashion photography for this film.
And the fashion photography is a lot of the best parts of the movie. You know, it's very true that this film is shot in this dynamic style, and really helping, I think, to bring in a lot of the forward-thinking cinematography that we see in the early 1960s with cross cuts in and out of the action of the story, and then just hard focus on these beautiful items that are being created, moving around very smoothly between time and different characters, and both montage scenes and in the musical numbers. So there's a lot of really striking imagery that comes from that world of fashion directly.
And also, we got what I think of as like Warhol-esque imagery, although I don't know if Andrew Warhol invented it, with the putting different gels or different tints over the same photo, even making them look very unrealistic, but very striking.
Yes, that pop art style is on display, and again, used really effectively. I mean, I think we have to call out the opening credits as one of the big... I mean, the opening credits to this film just look great, and they're really pleasant to look at. They really help to set the tone. They have this really strong, stark white background, which you don't see in a lot of credits, but helps to bring in the right mood for the whole film. And then in the middle, we see another big sequence, which is basically all photographs actually taken and treated and processed by Richard Avedon. And that's not the only person from the world of high fashion that's there. I know that there was we didn't mention in the credits that there's a real-life supermodel was part of the team, playing a supermodel in a not very flattering role. That was very generous of her, I guess we'd have to say.
Yes, Dovima was a real-life supermodel. She was playing Marion, who can't read, arguably. She also...
And just sounds dumb.
I gotta pick up Harold's laundry. She also is one of the models featured in the Think Pink sequence. I don't know if that's supposed to be Marion, or if we're not supposed to think that hard about it.
And I think it was also a big chance for advertising for some of these real-world high fashion world. I think it's Givenchy.
Givenchy,
excuse me.
Givenchy, David.
Excuse me. Was heavily involved in supplying clothes for the film.
Yeah. Well, that was also a standard part of mid-century filmmaking. It was not uncommon, especially for higher budget and focusing on pretty dress movies that focus on pretty dresses, to have a runway designer doing the dresses for the film. And Givenchy worked with Audrey Hepburn in a lot of her films. He also did the dresses for Sabrina and I think Breakfast at Tiffany's. And he designed a lot of her red carpet dresses. So he was there sort of as Audrey Hepburn's dresser. And he did all of the couture designs. There was a different costume designer who was doing the normal people clothes. Givenchy would never have a hand in that first costume that Audrey is wearing.
I think she looks fine, but we're going to get into that. And Richard Avedon, who we talked about before, was also, again, on set not only to help with the visual look of the film and to produce some of the photography and other pieces which were included directly in it, but also as the character study for Fred Astaire to base his performance on. The film was released in February of 1957, and it didn't do very well. We don't have all the numbers from this period of time. Things are not as closely documented, but probably in its initial release, it failed to even break even. This movie probably lost quite a lot of money. In 1964, though, when My Fair Lady was released and Audrey Hepburn became this big musical star that she's often thought of today, Paramount reissued Funny Face, and then it did it seems like quite well, probably more than turned a profit in total of its history. I mean, I think partially that's just Audrey being famous and people wanting to see another Audrey Hepburn movie. Maybe there's something to be said for this film in a way fitting 1964 culture a little bit better than 1957 culture. One of the things that I really love about Funny Face is its proto-hippie aesthetic. And it seems to be trying to tap into this growing bohemian, new age almost world, almost without quite realizing just what they're in on. You know, it kind of reminds me of the line that we talked about in our first episode not the film with Audrey Hepburn, in T for Sympathy. T and Sympathy. T and Sympathy. When the...
You don't have to exchange T for Sympathy. You get them both
I
for
always
free.
think of the song T for the Tiller Man, which is a fine song, but has nothing to do with that movie.
Okay.
But you have heard it because I know you enjoy the film where the kid pretends to kill himself over and over again. That's the plot of the movie.
Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude, and it's part of...
Okay.
Anyway.
It's by Cat Stevens?
It is by Cat Stevens,
okay.
Yes.
Then I've probably heard it.
I think you have heard it. But anyway, like that line in T for Sympathy where...
Nope.
T and Sympathy, like that line in T and Sympathy where the kids are making fun of him for liking guitar music and long hair stuff. And it's like, wow, guys, you're on the wrong side of this, just FYI. And I think, for me, part of what's interesting about Funny Face is its sort of curious look at the coming hippie wave. And as someone that finds myself largely still stuck in that wave, it's great to see that peer into what it's going to become.
Yeah, I think if you didn't know the year it was from, you would not have guessed that this was made in 1957. You probably would have said 1962, 63, 64. Between both the pop art and the hippie philosophy, very beardy, franche movements.
Exactly.
And then for some reason, Fred Astaire is in it.
Yeah, well, Fred Astaire is not the best part of this movie. Yeah, it's almost like he doesn't belong in this movie, and his character doesn't belong in this movie, and everything about that part kind of ruins what would have been an excellent film.
Do you think it would have been better with Gene Kelly?
That's a great question. Probably. Maybe then...
I think it would have been better. I don't think it would have been good.
I don't think it would have been great. Fred Astaire was the lead and the main singer in 1927. I've heard some of his 1927 renditions of the same songs, and they do sound better. Okay. They do sound better. I mean, I believe he had not primarily been practicing singing for the last 30 years, so it's not surprising that that's not what he's really succeeding at right now. And yeah, Audrey Hepburn is not a very good singer. I don't know that I've ever really loved her songs. This is not a My Fair Lady review. That's going to be a contentious enough
topic. Well, she does not do her own singing in My Fair Lady.
Oh, she doesn't?
That's Marni Nixon.
No, of course it is. Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Well, then it all makes sense.
Except for when she's yelling about Henry Higgins. Just you wait, Henry Higgins. That's Audrey. You're allowed to do that part. Everything else you're getting dubbed.
So, yeah, he does not sound great. And I think Kate Thompson sounds great. And she is a very trained and accomplished singer.
Yes. Well, so this was her basically only film role in front of the camera. She mostly did work staging musical numbers for MGM and working as a vocal and choral director. And she also went on to stage the concert performances of people like Lena Horne and Judy Garland.
And she was a vocal coach.
Yes. Yeah. And she also directed choruses for MGM musicals.
She went on to become a very successful children's book writer. She wrote the Eloise books, if you've read any of those.
And nightclub act.
A lot going on for Kate Thompson.
Yeah, and I think she... So Fred is famous for making his partners look good. That's probably what he is best known for. And I think Audrey does have a ballet background, but she was not primarily working as a dancer. She was primarily working as an actor, so I think her skills had waned. And also, not eating for 3 years in her teenage years does not help you be a great physical performer.
We're going to have to clarify that was not something that she did particularly by choice. She was involved in the war, and it went bad for her.
Yes. She and her family lived in the Netherlands during the Nazi occupation, and a lot of people just starved to death.
Yeah, as is a important back layer theme for this movie is about just how much suffering the Low Countries went through under Nazi occupation. That's important for both of these movies. And so for both of these movies, everyone living in Belgium, the Netherlands, and the Luxembourg really suffered economically, culturally, socially under Nazi occupation. Some of the worst atrocities, nutritionally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she and her family were digging flower bulbs up out of their garden to eat them. A really bad time. So Audrey Hepburn does know how to dance. She can clearly follow a beat, and she has sort of nice movements. They did in her wedding gown dress. They put her in shoes that she really couldn't point her feet in, and I think that made the number suffer. And Audrey was sort of intimidated about working with Fred, but he was very nice. Fred is known for basically always being very nice.
Yes.
At least that's what he's known for.
Yes.
And in some of their numbers, especially the photography room dance, the funny face dance, as I was watching it, I was really like, wow, Fred is doing such a good job of making Audrey look fantastic. However, in his number with Kay Thompson, the Philosophy Club dance, the Gimme Some Heat.
The soul dance?
Yeah. Man, I'm not looking at him at all. Kay Thompson is completely captivating, and he did not like dancing with her. He's like, Kay is a star, and she knows what she's doing, and I am getting totally upstaged. I, Fred Astaire, greatest dancer of the 20th century.
So they say.
Am getting upstaged. Can Kay tone it down at all, please?
Kay's great. I mean, she's magnetic. She's delivering everything with a lot of force and personality. And even though she's supposed to kind of be the bad guy and she's supposed to be kind of mean, she's actually pretty lovable and pretty fun to be around. And her singing definitely outclassed everyone else in this movie. Yeah. That's clear.
She's not the greatest dancer of all time, but she's really nailed the movement. And I like how in both of her two big numbers, the Philosophy Club and Think Pink, there's like sort of 5% of her projecting, I think this is really dumb.
It's ironic. It's an ironic performance.
Which is perfect for the character.
Yeah. You know...
I'm so sad that she hasn't been in a million other films.
Miss Prescott would think that this movie was too silly and was too sugared up, and these people don't really know what it really takes to cut it in the world of high fashion. So that sounds right. Over time, the film has received an improving reputation, and has an 87% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, mostly with newer reviews. It has a 7.0 on IMDb with 35,000 votes, which sounds kind of bad. But honestly, considering the biases of the IMDb crew, 7.0 is actually pretty good for this movie.
This is
that
not
means
for them.
There were a lot of people that watched this movie and were like, that's actually pretty good. That's what that number is telling us. The film received 4 nominations at the Oscars for Best Original Screenplay, which lost to Designing Women. Best Costume Design, which lost to Les Girls, a film I've never heard of.
Les Girls. That does star Gene Kelly.
Aha.
I mean, it's costumes, so not really anything to do with Gene.
That's true, but I'm sure there's a comment made by somebody at some point about that. Have you seen this film? Does it have beautiful costumes?
I've seen like 2 scenes from it. It's kind of the only famous film that Mitzi Gaynor was in, other than South Pacific. Yeah, I saw some like showgirl costumes, which are impressive showgirl costumes.
And do you think this is a top tier contender for costume design? There's a lot of it's about beautiful costumes. That is the idea.
I think all of the non-couture stuff is a bit ho-hum, except for Maggie's Think Pink suit, which is great.
I think Joe's bookstore outfit is really nice.
It is effective.
I think it's very nice.
Okay.
I think the bohemian look is excellent, but again, we're really digging into David's taste here.
Yeah, I would have given this a nomination.
Well, it got one. It was also nominated for Production Design, which it lost to Sayonara, and Cinematography, which it lost to The Bridge on the River Kwai, which was like the main movie for this year. It received no nominations at the BAFTAs, not because the BAFTAs didn't do any American things. Bridge on the River Kwai won. Katharine Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe were nominated, but they weren't particularly impressed with this.
Too French.
You think so?
Yes.
I see. The Franco-American alliance is not your way into the BAFTAs.
Correct.
We figured it out. Well, I think we have to start again with how great the opening credits are and how pretty, dynamic, creative, expressive they are. They remind me a lot of like James Bond movies.
Yes.
And with these sort of static images moving across the scene, placed against action shots of characters and dynamic poses. And I mean, I would even believe that this is maybe an influence on the James Bond movies of the early 60s. Just really attractive and makes you want to know what's going to happen next in the film.
Yeah, I think Funny Face is a really interesting movie because this is This movie isn't the only movie I've seen that this is true of, but it is really strongly true of this movie in ways that I haven't seen in other films. And that is that this movie gets worse as it goes along. The opening credits are great. Think Pink is amazing. Frequently, not frequently, but maybe once or twice a year, I'll be like, I'm going to rewatch Funny Face. And then I get to the end of Think Pink and I'm like, I'm good. That's all I needed. I feel like as we get increasingly silly plot situations, increasingly poorly motivated musical numbers, by the end, I'm just like, okay, guys, let's just wrap it up.
I can appreciate that. And it's definitely true that the opening is just so strong. Although, it is slightly noticeable how it doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the movie.
That's true. I do have my own little fan theory, I guess, about what's going on. So, the opening number, Think Pink, Maggie Prescott wants everyone to think pink because the spring edition of Quality Magazine is boring. It's lacking pizzazz, a word she made up. So we're just going to make everything pink. That's the theme for this issue. And then we sing a song about it. And everyone is dressed in pink. A character comes on and says, like, I haven't seen a woman for 2 weeks in anything but pink. And then for the rest of the show, there's very little pink. So what I think is going on is that every single edition, Maggie is like, this is terrible. We can't have this. We have to totally rethink everything about fashion and this magazine. And the first time that we happen to see it, she's like, everything's going to be pink. The second time, she's like, we need the quality woman who is going to represent everything that the magazine represents.
Stands for,
there we go. And we're going to have this famous French designer make a collection just for her and get the scoop. I don't think this is what the screenplay writers intended, but this is me retroactively making the story better. I think that every 3 months, there is a total catastrophe for the workers of Quality Magazine as they come up with a normal, good fashion magazine and then have to completely redo it with some insane theme.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is what the screenwriters intend, even though they're not putting. I think you're doing good analysis, and I think that is the impression that we're getting. That this is not the first time that she has said whatever line she says at the beginning. Everyone pay attention, or I have an announcement, or she says some fancy line. I think this is a regular occurrence, and everyone comes out of the room, and all right, let's go in there and see what is going to happen this time. No, I think you're totally right. That doesn't change the fact that the first episode of this that we see with the Think Pink, which again looks super great. It's just so pretty, so attractive. It's just nice to see all the things that happen. I particularly love the neon toothpaste that sparkles across.
I'm a huge fan of the toothpaste shot.
I'm a huge fan of that toothpaste shot. I really, really am. And, well, at the same time, it's an extremely consumerist message. Yes. I mean, it's kind of, to put it complimentarily, it's giving us all an opportunity to appreciate the beautiful things that consumerism does create without having to worry about the culture that creates them. And that can be fun, too, because they are very pretty. But the Think Pink song has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, and we could have just cut that whole bit, and it wouldn't have really changed anything about the story at all. That is a fact.
That's true.
That is a fact.
It's characterization for Maggie.
That's true. It makes us...
And also, it's important that she doesn't wear pink.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in. She comes out to sing the final section of the Think Pink number in an aggressively gray suit, which I believe is also the suit she was wearing at the beginning.
Yes, but I think in the final scene, with the one where she tells Dick to embrace empathicalism, she is wearing something pink in that final scene.
Yeah, she does wear something pink like 2 scenes after someone comments on her not wearing pink.
Yeah.
She's wearing a pink blouse under a burgundy thing. So I think the costumers did need to commit harder to Maggie never wearing pink.
I agree. Or play into the fact that eventually she changes her mind or something. But maybe Joe convinced her that it's okay to wear pink, and that's just fine.
Joe wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, maybe late movie Joe? Does Joe grow and become more confident and independent in this movie? Is that part of the plot? Because I want it to be, and it's not, I think is the answer.
I don't think it's there.
Yeah, I don't think it's there. I think you're right. But they could have made that part of the movie. That could have been fun. Quality is not a good magazine name. I think we gotta address
I think
this.
all the good magazine names have already been taken.
I hope that's not true. English has a lot of words, especially around the subtleties of fashion,
what
beauty,
would you
and
name
desire.
a fashion magazine?
Luster. That's something. That's better than quality. That's better than quality. Quality is a bad name. It sounds like it's a name for like an auto parts manufacturer. It really does not sell your magazine. But yeah. I mean, I think it's there basically to give them an excuse to use the loaded phrase quality woman.
Yeah.
Which again,
I think the writers sort of worked backwards from that.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think it's also hard when you have a movie about Audrey Hepburn starring Audrey Hepburn, that you title Funny Face. And it's all about how apparently she's supposed to not have an attractive face, which literally no one has ever said about Audrey Hepburn.
Good luck trying to sell us on that.
I don't understand, why did we choose the title for this movie as Funny Face? Why did we do that? She does not have a funny face. She has literally the most like standard attractive face of all time.
I think we maybe could have gotten further if they hadn't given her falsies. She's wearing falsies the whole time, including, I was watching the very first scene and I'm like, philosophy nerd Joe Stockton gets up in the morning, draws on her angular eyebrows, puts glue on her fake eyelashes and presses them onto her eyelids. And then she's like, okay, now I'm ready to work in my dusty bookstore.
And again, I think the combination of her bohemian clothes and her made-up face looks great. I think that her eyes look really attractive and really engrossing in those shots. But yeah, tonally doesn't match the character.
And also, it would give you more of a glow up. Let her be ugly for one scene.
You could describe her as having
ugly.
Maybe a funny face in that she's not wearing a lot of makeup at the beginning, and that's slightly funny to these people. But as you say, they don't even do that. Audrey Hepburn's face looks absolutely amazing in every shot of this movie, including maybe the most famous shot, which is not quite a shot from the film, which is a photograph by Richard Avedon, done in that pop art style where her face is basically washed out against the white background and we just see the features of her face, which looks like a great photo, is really attractive and interesting. But yeah, doesn't look funny. Nothing funny about that face. And it's not even like the original musical had a plot that was actually based on someone having a funny face. Yeah. Certainly not this plot.
George and Ira Gershwin wrote a song called Funny Face.
Right.
It was kind of catchy, and it fit Fred's voice part.
Right.
And they were like, okay, we'll stick this
in our musical. Jewel Diary Hijinks musical. And now we're going to make another movie that has nothing to do with that musical, but we're still calling it Funny Face for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. That's how movies were made.
Okay. Well, we could have come up with a lot better title for this movie.
It would have sold fewer tickets.
I don't think that's true. It actually sold very few tickets with this title. I think it would
have sold fewer.
There's got to be a better title for this movie.
There were a couple of grandmas who had seen Funny Face in 1927, and they normally don't go to the movies, but they were like, oh, I remember, Fred's still in it.
I mean, that's got to be like 5,000 people who live in the city of New York. So maybe it sold those 5,000 tickets, to your point.
Mm-hmm. Also, cut down on rehearsal time because Fred already knows the song.
I'm not saying you can't have the song in the movie, but you don't have to title the movie Funny Face.
Okay.
I mean,
you think
the song doesn't belong in the movie for all the same reasons.
Okay.
Your point,
okay.
that makes that scene just bewildering. I mean, I actually do quite like their dancing. Fred Astaire is good at dancing. He's good at making his partner dancing, and I think Audrey's dancing throughout the movie is great. And the song is kind of fine. It's kind of fine. But everyone in the world watching that scene is spending the whole time thinking, her face isn't funny. That's not right. We're all thinking it. They really do destroy that bookshop. I want to know exactly what happened. Like, in a way, Jo gets compensated for destroying the bookshop because she gets to go to Paris and hopefully they're paying her for some of this stuff. None of that's ever discussed, so I'm not sure. But
I think she's at least got a per diem.
That's right. As Jo has made very clear to us at the beginning, this is not her bookshop. And she just leaves. So that means when the owner comes back, they just come back to a totally destroyed bookshop.
Well, I think Jo is there for the rest of the day.
Oh.
They destroy the bookshop. Everyone leaves except Dick. He kisses her.
Yeah. Well.
And then he leaves, and she continues to put the books away, but also sings a little song about how maybe she is soft on the inside and does want to be pretty and wear this stupid big hat.
Yeah.
And then I think after the song finishes, she continues sorting out the books.
You said at the beginning that the film gets worse and worse, and I'm not quite sure I agree. I mean, I think the opening is astoundingly good, and the rest isn't all quite that good, so overall your point's fair. But I don't think the movie gets worse and worse. I think there are two parts of this movie, and one part of it is very good, and the other part of it is truly terrible. And of course, as we all know if you've seen the movie, the truly terrible part is the romance between Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn. This is the worst movie romance I have ever seen.
Wow.
It's got to be one of them, and I've been thinking about it, and it's this one.
You haven't seen Lily.
This is the world's worst romance of any film. First of all, it's super rapey. The whole point of the romance is that Fred Astaire keeps just grabbing this lady and kissing her without permission. And that's basically the movie.
Which is kind of incoherent for the plot of the film, because the way in which Jo does grow and develop as a character is that she eventually realizes that, oh, this philosopher who champions being empathetic that I admire so much actually is just trying to have sex with me, regardless of whether or not I consent. And so I'm going to leave this philosophy behind and go back to the fashion industry where no woman has ever been sexually assaulted. Certainly not me.
Throughout
in the
the
course
entire
of
movie.
This film.
Yeah. And somehow, like, Fred Astaire...
For the record, I do maybe not the first kiss in the bookshop is a little bit weird. The second kiss in the Anna Karenina shoot, I totally think would actually have happened in the 1950s.
I think the first one is the one that sets the tone for everything else. And in that one, she doesn't ask to be kissed. She's not happy about it. She's not happy about it afterwards. It's just a horrible experience of her being sexually assaulted. And we're just meant to...
Yeah, and also, like, you know, she's explaining empathicalism to Dick. And he just, like, grabs her and kisses her. And she's like, why did you do that? And he says, I put myself in your place and I felt like you wanted to be kissed. Which we've been given no indication that that is true.
Yeah.
Like, if there had been something to indicate that was true, it's not just that it's rape, it's that it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I think the screenwriter's point is that ladies just want you to kiss them, and they're just too embarrassed to tell you or admit to themselves, but, you know it. That's the message of the film, and the message of basically every romance movie ever. Or most of them, frankly. Most romance films that have been put out there. We don't need to add a year on that. That's a fact. And so I do think they think it makes sense. That's not a slip. Not only does a horrible job of dealing with consent, but just like you're saying, in the scene where we learn about empathicalism, which I guess we should make clear is supposed to be the sort of basically their stand-in term for being a hippie. They haven't quite figured out that you're supposed to say being a hippie yet in 1957.
But in sort of a
Bohemian beatnik.
Yeah, it's more beatnik than hippie.
Yes, this new philosophy where, like, the world's going to be controlled by the idea that people should care about each other and that's the only thing that matters, and, like, love is the answer or something like that. So that's our stand-in for hippieism. And at the moment where Jo is trying to explain this idea to him that you should really care about other people would think, that's the moment where we are brutally ripped out of her nice and interesting speech to see her be violated in this way that she clearly doesn't want, and then states immediately afterwards that no, she really genuinely didn't want. The film really makes in the same way as those kids making fun of Tom in Tea and Sympathy, the film makes a poor choice in betting against empathicalism. It's like, obviously this empathicalism stuff will never catch on or anything. So let's make a movie where the point is, like, the main character thinks that that's kind of dumb. And, like, we don't actually need to believe in love for the future or anything like that. And so, that was not actually the direction that society went after that, as it turned out. So that makes this film look really stupid.
Yeah, they are constantly making fun of all of these philosophy people. Jo's bookshop is called Embryo Concepts Bookshop.
Which is not a good title for a bookshop. That is a bad name. This is where Miss Prescott is right, and those people need some marketing help. That's fair. That's true.
I also think it's weird, very close to the end, when when Avery runs into Flostra getting on a plane.
Yes.
No indication that this was going to happen before, but apparently after getting whacked on the head and going to the hospital and getting a head wrap, Professor Flostra is getting on a plane to India. Why? No idea. We just need him to be at the airport so that Dick can tell him.
That's where New Age... And yeah, that part's weird. But that is so much not the worst part of this movie. Although it is interesting in that scene how, like, it seems almost like the cinematography is like, yeah, now Dick and Flostra are like, they're on the same team. And they're like, yeah, you are kind of on the same team in that you're both trying to rape Audrey Hepburn. Yeah. That is something that now you know that you share together. So it's weird that they're like bonding over that. It's also a horrible romance because he's way too old for her. He's way too old for her.
Audrey's 27 and Fred is 57 during.
And he looks 57 and she looks 27.
Yeah, and for the big romance love song in the wedding dress, not at the very end, but what song did they sing?
Oh, is that Swonderful? The one they sang the first time at the chapel?
No, the Swonderful's later.
Okay.
He loves and she loves him.
Oh yeah.
They put him in the most grandpa sweater possible.
Yeah. They have in no way attempted to age him down. From what I understand, Fred Astaire was not super comfortable with the way that the romance was being portrayed on the screen. And the that's not really honestly intended as a comment on age gap relationships and the point that these people, someone of X age and Y age, should never be together. I don't mean that, but that's just this in combination with all of the other horrible things that are aspects of the relationship just makes it seem like how could you even in 1957 think that this was a good idea?
Yeah, I think a 30-year age gap is a red flag, and I think that the term red flag has been misused to mean
deal breaker.
Deal breaker.
Yeah.
A red flag is not a deal breaker.
That's right.
It is something you should be paying attention to.
Yes.
I think if you have a 30-year age gap, that doesn't automatically mean the relationship shouldn't be happening.
Right.
But you do need to think about specifically that.
It's probably going to be a problem. You should worry about it.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. Yeah, Joe is just hunted throughout this movie. And it kind of makes it an exciting action film, in a way. Who's going to assault Joe next does add some tension to the story, but at least to my modern eyes, it just makes half the movie really sad.
Yeah.
It's just really sad because even...
And I want her to find solace in her philosophy, but the philosophy is also... bad artificially because the script needs it to be bad.
Yes. Even apart from these assaults that she's suffering, she's then outside of that hunted by Miss Prescott and the ladies of the fashion magazine
that's one of
that
the
also
assaults.
are trying to make her do things that she doesn't want to do. Not quite in the same level of horror, and that she eventually does find a way to integrate within her life. But this experience of her being hunted by all of these men and the other scenes, it makes it where I can't really enjoy those moments. It's not like, oh, and now people are sort of trying to pressure her to do things she doesn't want to do. That's all that's been happening in the whole movie, and I'm already really upset about it. So then I can't enjoy the fun parts that are like that either. The way the bookstore is shot at the opening reminds me a lot of Phantom Thread. We see a lot of the same textures, the soft lighting, the very naturalistic look. And it's funny because in that film it's supposed to be kind of bad looking and ugly is sort of the point. But then in Phantom Thread, we get very similar images presented as like the height of elegance and beauty.
This is the glamour.
Yeah.
Where is the glamour in the fashion industry?
Yeah. I'm kind of happy to see both sides. But yeah, I think the bookstore looked great. Once we're in Paris, we spend most of our time in this philosophy cafe, which we spend, again, a lot of our time just making fun of hippies, because apparently everyone hates hippies. Again, not a great long-term bet for this movie's cultural presence.
Yeah, I don't know if... I mean, I really like Audrey's dance.
I love her bohemian dance. I think it's just superb.
And I don't know if I'm supposed to like it or not.
Is it like, apparently people have like new modern dances. Let's watch it and laugh? ? But yeah, to a modern audience, there's really not that much to laugh at. It's just a really, really nice and interesting dance. I mean, obviously it looks a bit old-fashioned to us because it's very 60s style.
Aside from the fact that it's in a movie with Fred Astaire choreographed numbers, so
sure,
it looks modern compared to those.
That's right. So yeah, I do think they're trying to be, that's almost their most complimentary nod towards
like
hippie. They're like, well, I guess some of the dances are kind of cool.
That's the first time we like really get into Joe's philosophical side, and it was being presented positively.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the film, we're just making fun of it.
I think that at that point, they're sort of trying to be like, well, we want people to understand Joe's perspective. We want to see what does Joe find attractive, and maybe even make the audience think that maybe these hippies aren't so bad after all. And they do a very good job of that. but not in tone with the rest of the film. But yeah, I think it's a great dance. Do you think, like you said, here's where we do really start to see Jo not just as generic intellectual, but genuinely having her own philosophical ideas. Do you think that she is ever into fashion philosophically, or is she seeing fashion as an indulgence and a canceling out of her philosophical ideas, or does she ever gain a philosophical appreciation of what she's doing in fashion?
Yeah, I would have liked it if she did.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to invent a better movie here.
Intellectualism to the fashion industry, but I don't think it's there. I think she's just like, I do love this guy, and he's in the fashion industry, so I'll hang out, and then we could work together.
Okay, all right. Well, I tried.
Or maybe by the end she's like, wow, this whole philosophy thing really blew up in my face. This isn't what I wanted at all. I guess fashion.
Yeah.
It's certainly the opposite.
Maybe has she stopped being an empathicalist at the end of the movie? Because, of course, what happens is that she goes to meet Flostra.
Right.
And then he assaults her, and then she runs off more or less into Dick's arms.
No, well, she runs back to the fashion show because she is being paid to do it.
That's right. And cries in her wedding dress.
Yes. It's not her wedding dress.
It is her wedding dress. I disagree with you.
Do you think they get married afterwards?
I do think they get married afterwards.
Immediately at the end of the film?
No, I do not think they get...
Because when they showed up the first time, the priest was like, we didn't have a marriage on the books today, but that's fine. Come on in. You guys can get married
I don't think they get married immediately because the priest doesn't get there. But I do think it would be a better movie if in the closing shot we see kind of the priest coming in from the background being like, now, finally... And then we would assume that they do immediately get married. So.
No. I think the priest would be like, it's just the people there for the fashion shoot.
Oh.
I won't bother them. And they're like, no.
That's fun.
Don't go.
That's
we do want to get married. We're stuck on this raft. Can you help?
Yeah, a lot of ambitious raft work in that dance, but it works out. Yeah, after Jo rejects Dick the first time, he does his toxic masculinity display.
What are you referring to as his first rejection?
Not the first time, sorry. After she rejects him in Paris, and he does his dance where he does golf and bullfighting.
Let's kiss and make up.
Which two things have really aged poorly and now have kind of a negative, much more negative depiction they did in the 1950s? Golf and bullfighting. Yeah, let's make that the defining moment for our character.
I also feel like these two concepts are like totally unprompted, and I'm wondering if Fred had choreographed this dance for a different movie. I don't really think we need a song there. The song is Let's Kiss and Make Up. And I think we do need them to stop being mad at each other, so we just have it all happen in a song. And then the actual singing part is maybe 2 minutes long, maybe less. And then we've got like a 5-minute long dance number which is inspired by bullfighting and then golf. Two things that have nothing to do with Paris, nothing to do with the plot. I think Fred was just like, I need some sort of inspiration for this choreography. What am I going to do? Bullfighting.
I mean, I think maybe there's some direction from the script or elsewise, and it's supposed to be he's sort of... The message is like, well, you may reject me, but I'm still a tough man, and that's what really matters. I think
I'm
that's
a tough man, I golf.
Yeah, nothing more masculine than golf. And nothing more well thought out than bullfighting is roughly the message of that dance. Yeah. For a film which...
I think he's trying to make her laugh.
That's a more complimentary viewing than I had.
She does laugh at the end.
Fred Astaire's character is just... It's tough when you make the defining aspect of your character that they're a bad listener and they have no empathy. Because... Audrey's message is that empathy and listening to people is really important. And Fred is supposed to be the opposite of that. So we have a character where it's just like, yeah, he's a bad listener and he has no empathy. And you like that? And the audience is supposed to like this person? I don't understand the strategy there. I think the Dick Avery character is at its best, and Fred Astaire's performance is its best, in the moments where he gets to be this sort of noir secret agent character, and he's sort of listening behind doors and saying sort of snarky one-liners to people on the street. And those moments, he's actually very cool, and he's very arresting and fun to be around. But everything where he has to actually interact with the person, his job is to be a jerk, intentionally. I
also think Fred Astaire, well known as a nice guy, is bad at acting mean or angry. So that didn't help.
Yeah.
Or maybe it did help. I don't know. I never found Fred Astaire particularly threatening.
Well, I did at the moment where he just grabbed Audrey Hepburn and kissed her without asking several times.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly just feel like that first kiss is non-canon.
You can't do that.
I know. It just like it's not something I'm intentionally doing. It just doesn't compute in my brain why it's happening.
That's because you're trying to think that it's a good movie. If you accept that it's 50% a truly terrible movie, then it makes a lot of sense. Okay. What do you think the best dress in this film is? Or the best, what's the best costume for Audrey? Let's narrow that down.
Oh, costume for Audrey.
Costume for Audrey.
Huge turnaround in that case.
Yeah, sure.
My favorite dress in the whole film?
Sure, well, either way.
It's a more interesting answer. Favorite dress in the whole film is the dress that the actual Mrs. Baker is wearing.
Okay, who's Mrs. Baker?
Or maybe it's Barker. The actual folk duo who were meant to perform.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is so homely, and it does result in the greatest line of the film, which is, now this lady is the editor of a fashion magazine. Fashion!
I was going to say, for Audrey's best costume at least, the big blue sheet. It's the big blue sheet.
Big blue sheet?
I think it's a cloak or something along those lines.
Yes, it's meant to protect the couture gown underneath.
Oh, I see.
It's a protective layer.
Well, it looks great.
That's why she's complete, and also protect her hairstyle.
Yes.
So I think like
Very modern.
Her dresser or hairstylist had come over, done her up, and then it covered her in the big blue sheet, which is protective.
I need to get some protective big blue sheets to start weighing around, is what you're telling me. Yes. Apparently these things are pretty easy to find.
I don't think it's blue. I think it's lavender. But we do get a similar thing in British ballet movie Red Shoes.
Yeah, it's less full body, I feel like, in Red Shoes.
Okay, here it is opened.
Okay. That still has like multiple layers in it.
No. The dress has multiple layers.
I see.
The cloak is just one big covering, which she does wear closed at some. I don't think it has a hood, because the hood would catch on her tiara.
Well, the hood on Audrey looks great. That's a great look for Audrey. That's all I'm saying.
Just face.
No,
nothing else.
But apparently she has the funny face.
I mean, she does have a very graphic face. I think that's
the
why
part
the
you
art
need to
style
emphasize.
Works with her.
It worked good.
Especially when you draw your eyebrows on like that.
Those
are not real human eyebrows.
Yeah. So I'm struggling with how to formulate the sentence, so I'll just try to get it out there.
Do it.
Consent issues aside, is this a feminist film? That's a tough sentence to say. Does it have something constructive to say about fashion and philosophy? What would be the constructive message of this film? Does it have one?
Is it feminist for 2025 or for 1957?
Let's say 1957. Let's try
here. Okay.
Because I think the answer is no.
Maggie is a strong, powerful woman doing a good job. Maybe.
She is doing a good job.
Maybe she's doing
in a woman's role as a fashion editor, but I hear you.
She's in charge.
She is in charge. That's undeniable.
She gets to boss men around.
She does get to boss men around. You're right.
Yeah, I think Maggie is the feminist icon.
That's what we got. All right, that's something. Yeah, it's fortunate for the whole plot that Flostra has an incredibly thin skull. This comes up several times in the plot. So, good. That's good. I don't know if that's supposed to be a message about philosophers having really thin skulls or something like that, but otherwise this movie just wouldn't work.
Maybe he just sort of, when Joe hits him, he just sort of gave up and he was like, if she's willing to bust some art,
I see.
Then that makes him really consider what he's done.
But the original part of this slapstick rape scene is when she throws something else at his head. Oh, no, Fred.
Dick throws
something at his head, temporarily knocking him out, and then he quickly comes back.
Well, getting back-to-back head injury, they do compound.
That's right, they do compound.
Yeah.
But the first one was such a light hit, it just made absolutely no sense.
I think maybe he wanted Joe to take her.
I see.
Oh no, your brutish American boyfriend coming in here.
Okay.
Toxic masculinity around.
See. Yes. I need you to nurse me back to health.
Yeah.
And that might be somehow turns out weirdly the foundation of our relationship or something.
I'm a sensitive French philosopher who just needs your kisses.
And Joe says, yeah, I want you flat on your back. Totally helpless. That's the dynamic of our relationship. Okay, it makes sense. Okay, well, my last question would be an important question for you, Libby.
Well, actually...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just comparing the two.
Oh, yes?
And getting into spoilers for just really right at the end of Phantom Thread.
Whatever.
Do you think Alma would have appreciated it if someone else had shown up and stuffed mushrooms down Reynolds' throat?
That's a great question. I think this is weirdly an important question for interpreting Phantom Thread. And I think the best answer is that it wouldn't have been as good. Alma wants to have power over Reynolds. And yes, that could have given her half of what she wanted, but no, part of what she wanted was the power to decide when he's in and out of the state. Maybe even like without always asking his consent about it, which is something that we'll have to get into in a minute. Libby, do trees love? Do trees love? Because there is a very notable line in this film where Fred is describing all the ways in which their love is so pure and good as represented throughout the rest of the film, including the fact that it's like the way that trees love.
Yeah, birds love and bees love and trees love. So why not?
So
you love and I love.
Do trees love?
Yeah. The only thing I have to say to that is trees, they are us.
It made me think about, I guess
I don't think you did ask me about this during the film, and I do have the same answer, which is that I don't think trees have like personal monogamous relationships with one individual other tree. I don't think that. I think we could maybe express the sort of the network of communication and how trees protect each other through their root systems and mycelial blah blah blah. That the trees are expressing love for each other.
Patriotic love, you might say, a love for their community and a desire for it to succeed.
Well, isn't that the same as humans?
No, well, that's what Plato said, right? I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, trees do tend to help other trees of their own species, trees that are more closely genetically related, more.
So trees love and are racist.
But they do also help the ecosystem as a whole, which they need to exist, just like humans do, in fact, generally like their direct relations more, and generally have a sort of overall benevolent relation to the human species as a whole. But if some bad things happen to people that I don't know, I'm not going to get too upset about it.
Yeah. My answer is that trees do not love. Sorry, America. Trees do not love. But trees do.
I thought you were a hippie, David.
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You're leaving me out here hugging the trees.
That's fair. But trees do act lovingly. You do have to be conscious to love. It has to be some decision or desire.
I don't want to come out here and make give a hard answer to tree consciousness. I'm not doing it.
Trees are not conscious. Come at me 30 years from now. I'm ready.
Yeah, if there's one thing that humans are really good at, it's failing to recognize consciousness in other people.
We are
in
really
the
good at that.
18th century, humans were doing live dissections on dogs because they thought that dogs couldn't feel pain.
That's right.
They're like, they're just little robots that put food into and then they bark.
So unlike a human. And
nowadays, if you tried to convince someone that dogs aren't conscious, they would think you're all crazy.
Well, in the 16th or maybe even 17th or 18th century, they thought that children weren't conscious and weren't really alive and didn't really have feelings, even though they were children earlier on in their lives. Right. So you're making a great point.
Yeah.
It's true.
And then I'll just reference all the racism, people thinking that people with different skin colors are less conscious or not conscious.
You're right.
So, yeah, the circle of consciousness is only expanding, and plants are on the bubble.
Not happening, trees. Sorry.
Okay. I'm so much further than you on this. I don't think that rocks are conscious.
Okay.
But if I time traveled 1,000 years in the future and people were like, no, we actually do think that rocks are conscious, I'd be like, that makes sense. I get it.
Somewhat interestingly, you'd only have to travel a couple thousand years into the past for people to think that rocks are conscious.
Yes.
So there's a certain circularity there. So now comes the part of the podcast where we ask our listeners for some help. Because we love the beautiful process of pairing movies and finding the right movies to pair with other movies. But sometimes it's hard, and we could use some help.
And we haven't seen every movie out there.
So the movie I would like people's help with is the film Network from 1976, which is a classic. I've seen it. I think it's a really good movie. And it's one of the most influential films of the last 50 years. It is constantly referenced by directors and screenwriters as being an innovative film that pushed things forward and expanded their mind.
Does it have that very famous line that I'm thinking of?
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore?
Yes,
it's
that's that one.
That's that one, correct. And I think it's really difficult because there are two really strong candidates to pair with this movie. The sort of natural, obvious pairing is the film from the 50s, A Face in the Crowd, and I now realize I don't remember what year it's from, 1957, the 1957 film, A Face in the Crowd, which is also about a sort of media-savvy woman who finds a passionate man to sort of direct and create and mass movement about that gets out of hand. So that'd be a natural pairing, and I think we would likely conclude that Network is something of a remake homage to A Face in the Crowd, and it's supposed to be pretty good. I haven't seen that one. But then there's another pairing, which Livy actually suggested, which I thought was really, really interesting, which would be the Will Ferrell vehicle, Anchorman.
I'm looking for the less common, the more philosophical connections.
And there's also a lot of plot overlap in these movies about men and women interacting together in the media space and how you can get the ball rolling and things get out of hand. And, sometimes the trident just comes out of nowhere. And I think that I enjoy watching Anchorman overall. And I could maybe see more people in our YouTube and podcast audience might want to hear about the recent popular film Anchorman as opposed to the 1957 obscure film A Face in the Crowd. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe people are done with Anchorman. They don't want to hear about Anchorman. Let's do some actual proper serious films in this podcast. Something along those lines. So I could definitely use insight. What direction's the right direction here? Definitely want to do Network, A Face in the Crowd, or Anchorman.
So now, on to Phantom Thread. This is a 2017 film, so exactly 60 years later. It is written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who from now on I will be referring to as PTA.
That's right.
So don't be interpreting that as Parent Teacher Association. It stars Vicky Krieps as Alma, Daniel Day-Lewis as Reynolds Woodcock, Leslie Manville as Cyril Woodcock. First time I've ever heard that name being used for a woman.
That might almost meant to be sort of implying something about the characterization.
Mm-hmm. And Brian Gleeson as Dr. Robert Hardy.
Brian Gleeson from the leading Irish acting family, the Gleesons. Both his brother and his father, Brendan,
and Domhnall.
And Domhnall, his brother and his father, Brendan, are two of Ireland's leading actors. The film started production with PTA's personal life. PTA himself became very ill and was stuck in bed for several days with only his partner to care for him. And he said he realized that these were the moments where his partner looked at him with more love and affection than any other times in their relationship was when she was nursing/lording over him in bed. And so that's a movie, he said. He was deeply inspired by a wide variety of films, especially the films of David Lean and Alfred Hitchcock. Several times he's mentioned the film Rebecca, which we've covered on this podcast. Another film about a woman who gets access to the world of luxury, but finds it more threatening than she originally had hoped. This was around 2014, 2015, so the film was in conceptual production for a long time, and very early on in the process, Daniel Day-Lewis was brought in as a creative force. Daniel Day-Lewis is the co-writer of this film and had a big role in influencing the structure of the story, the characterizations, especially of Reynolds, and updated a lot of the dialogue. Originally, in the original version, PTA had written that Reynolds said, "I'm going to throw up now." And Daniel had to explain to him that is not what Reynolds would say. He would not say, "I'm going to throw up now."
What line did this eventually turn into?
I believe it is something like, "I'm going to be sick."
Okay.
I believe, but I'm not sure if that line actually exists directly translating this film or not. But definitely wouldn't say, "I'm going to throw up now."
And they had worked together a lot before There Will Be Blood
That's right. That was a pretty well-received movie. And
Did he do Gangs of New York?
he is in Gangs of New York.
Did
No,
Pete-
no,
okay.
that is
That's
Scorsese. And that they worked together in There Will Be Blood. And, of course, Daniel Day-Lewis has a mystique around him that no other actor in the modern era does. And he's our prince of acting, or whatever we want to call it.
Yes, enhanced by this being pitched as his final film.
That's right. He had made some comments in the past about how I wasn't sure how long he was going to go to, but this was the first time that he had publicly said that the film was going to be his last, and that really did a lot for the credentials of his movie. And there was a lot of drama ahead of time. But was it really his last? He's just saying that to promote the movie. He's pulling a Miyazaki. And I think the answer turns out to be somewhere in between. I think we should conclude that this genuinely, Daniel believed this to be his last film, and that was his intention. He has, after that, done another film. But it kind of doesn't count because his son was a director, and also he was kind of the director and co-writer, and it's a pretty artsy piece that wasn't really intended for broad release. So
is he the lead?
Yes, he is the lead.
Okay.
So
is it feature length?
It is feature length.
Okay. That's a real movie.
Yeah. And this was like 15 years later, so we might categorize that less as one of his premier film projects and more as a personal art project / favor to his son, Ronan, which is an understandable favor to want to give to somebody. But it's his last well-known and widely appreciated film. Daniel, our PTA was... also inspired by...
You can call him Paul Thomas Anderson if you want to.
No, I don't want to call him Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm actually so glad that you said that, because I thought I was going to have to get into, we need to call this person PTA, please work with us speech. So I'll do that now, because I'm not going to call him Anderson. That's not a very specific name. No one knows any director that goes by Anderson. I'm not going to call him Paul. He doesn't want to be called Paul. I'm not going to call him Paul Thomas. Paul Thomas Anderson is his professional name. And
what do people call him on set?
PT.
Okay.
So we can call him PT. Those are our options.
Okay.
We got PT, PTA...
for Phantom Thread?
For Phantom Thread. That might be slightly confusing. But a good point that I hadn't thought about.
I was, for a second, I was like, do all of his films have the initials PT?
That would be impressive. But the answer is no. I think we all would have caught on to it by that point. So yeah, he was also inspired. PTA was also inspired by... reading about the history of real-life fashion designers, to some extent by Balenciaga, who the look of Reynolds himself is supposed to kind of be based on. But really, the story was influenced more by, first by Charles James, a very well-known mid-century dressmaker.
Not James Charles. Anyway.
Is James Charles someone else?
He is a YouTube makeup artist.
Okay.
Wow, David doesn't know anything about the James
YouTube.
Charles Vitamins Gummy scandal.
I don't know anything about the James Charles Vitamins Gummy scandal.
Bye, sister.
I don't know what this is. I do like the sentence.
People say I'm not cultured.
Sorry. I do like the sentence James Charles Vitamin Gummy scandal. I can see why everyone was excited about that.
It's specifically hair vitamin.
Hair
vitamin gummies.
Okay. Well, that does sound like a scandal. That's not a real thing. Hold on. Now I just turned really against James Charles all of a sudden here. But that's okay. So, by James Charles, a real life...
I got you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. By Charles James.
Okay.
A real life fashion designer and part-time hair vitamin YouTuber from the 50s.
No. It's not his vitamins.
Well, he's a hair vitamin YouTuber. He can still be YouTubing about him if he doesn't own the vitamins.
It was Tati West, but no, he actually didn't.
Oh, he didn't.
He didn't. He used somebody else's hair vitamins.
Okay.
Not his friend's hair vitamins.
These were replacement stand-in hair vitamins. This is probably going to get cut, but in the preceding minutes, Libby did explain to me the details of the James Charles hair vitamin
That's
scandal.
not even the details, babe.
Well,
that was the loose overview.
Got it. So yeah. The character of Reynolds Woodcock is based on the real-life fashion designer Charles James, who was a very successful dress designer, still their work very much acclaimed today, but also was known for having an extremely overbearing style of working with other people. It's also heavily influenced by Beau Brummel, who I guess is Libby's great villain of fashion histoy. I'm not sure how that plays into
the great male renunciation.
But the character is supposed to be based on Beau. I
also wonder if he's a little bit based on Maggie Prescott.
Maybe so. Why Maggie Prescott in particular? He's kind of
anti-fashion. his own personal wardrobe. Not that impressive.
Well, I do think we're going to get into it eventually. You might mention it now that the dresses that Reynolds makes in this movie are not universally acclaimed. And from the beginning, Paul Thomas Anderson stated that his goal was not to make a movie about the world's greatest dress designer. And you are not required to be impressed by Reynolds' dresses in order to appreciate
Unlike
this
Funny
film.
Face, where part of the reason you're going is to see the glamorous dresses.
And that we are supposed to be working with, I guess, the world's greatest dress designer in Funny Face for the little bit of time that we spend with that person. But yeah, that is not the message of this movie. You can come with your own opinions, and that's what PTA has to say about that. The name Reynolds comes from Reynolds Stone, who is a really well-known engraver. He made it's a really famous letter block, which is just the alphabet carved into wood in a particular style. And there's one of these alphabet wood carving blocks in Reynolds' home. And Daniel Day-Lewis was sort of friends with Reynolds' family and took direct inspiration from that. One thing that I was able to figure out by putting the pieces together is that the title font of the titling and credits is in Minerva Linotype, which is a font that was invented by Reynolds Stone. The film was shot from January to June of 2017. It was shot on location in downtown London in a townhouse in Fitzroy Square, where these establishments are located in real life. And PTA said that it turned out to be way harder to do that than he had planned at the beginning.
Because the rooms are too small? Or?
Yes, and because the houses are not set up with the infrastructure to make a movie in them. And maybe it would have been cheaper to film this on a lot. This film was shot for $52 million, which is a lot of money, even in 2017, for this movie. Mm-hmm. And some of that, I think, went to Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't think he did this for $0 or anywhere close to it. But this movie was not over budget. It was budgeted for $55 million, and they came in under budget at $52 million. But that is just a massive, massive budget for this film. So this is a blank check movie from PTA. That's what we're watching here. Somewhat controversially, this film does not have a cinematographer. There is no cinematographer of Phantom Thread, which is why it was not eligible for cinematography awards at the Oscars. There is no cinematographer.
They didn't just list PTA as a cinematographer? I mean, I assume he was fulfilling the role.
This is a complex question. Okay. PTA wants everyone to know that it was a team effort. And really, the cinematographer was somebody... someone credited for a role that does not conventionally exist, the lighting cameraman, which isn't a thing. Okay. But PTA said that he was in charge of shot selection, and then this lighting person actually had the light meter in his hand, so was in charge of the lighting, and then somebody else would sort of make decisions about lenses, and it would be an open discussion. And this film was made with PTA's crew, his standard group of people that he works with, that were all transported over to London. Normally, you bring local people in, but not this time. And so they had all worked together for a long time. And in preparation for this project, they had made several smaller projects, including the music video for Daydream by Radiohead. And of course, that's not surprising because this film is scored by Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead, who also did the score for There Will Be Blood and many, many other movies. He's the classically trained Radiohead guy.
Mm-hmm. So how did the producers feel about PTA just removing them from eligibility for a cinematography award?
I don't think they were pumped about it, but I don't think they were too worried about it. Maybe having one less really expensive creative lead on the film that's already has this crazy budget might be okay.
I mean, could you have listed PTA and two other people as the cinematographers?
I wouldn't play games with the guild.
Okay.
They don't take well to those types of things. And PTA, I don't think, is a member of the Cinematographers Guild, among other issues. I wouldn't do that if I were you. PTA said that he and his cinematographer are on good terms, but they... Basically, I think PTA was a bit annoyed because the cinematographer said he wasn't available for the schedule. And, normally his cinematographer does higher budget movies that, pay more and not... PTA's kind of boring artsy stuff. And so the cinematographer said, look, I'm not going to change my whole schedule around and not be a millionaire because you want me to do your silly movie. And PTA, I don't think, really appreciated that idea and said,
your silly movie in these tiny English rooms.
That's right. And he said, well, I'll just do it myself. I don't need you. And the cinematographer has since been pretty negative. He has given some of the most negative reviews of this movie and saying that it wasn't shot correctly in a variety of ways.
Have they worked together since then?
Nope.
Okay, so it's his ex-cinematographer.
Yes. And
have either of them poisoned the other with mushrooms?
I think they maybe are keeping a respectful distance from each other at breakfast and dinner to avoid this problem.
Maybe if they do that, that's how they're going to work through it.
I feel bad.
I mean, the point
That's
is,
a great
the
point.
point is that poisoning people with mushrooms fixes the relationship.
That is the point. Maybe fair enough. That is an interesting point. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. PTA wants everyone to know that they're not mad at each other and they're still friends and blah 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 blah. So he would not like that.
I mean, that is the industry answer. That's
also
what you
true.
have to say, regardless of whether it is true.
That's also true. And yeah, well, this film has a very interesting and subtle visual look. Part of it is that it's filmed almost all with low contrast filters, which are designed to make the images look more natural. They look the way things look when you're in a normal room and there's imperfect lighting around you, which is immersive, but also means that things are not as sharp and sometimes visually entertaining as a typical film. It's very much the opposite of what was done that we spoke of so positively in the Florida Project with the enhancing filter. This film was going totally in the opposite direction. And the film was shot with pushed stock, which sort of means the photos are all slightly overexposed. Again, to really show the imperfections and details of things to make them look more natural, but perhaps less attractive. And maybe most controversially, there is a ton of use of haze in this film. There, you don't quite see it because of the way things are shot, but in all of these rooms are filled with a light smoke while the characters are doing these. And in fact, there are a couple...
Haze is not smoke, it's water vapor.
Thank you. Light steam to produce this look. There are a couple parts, especially in the fashion show, where you can actually see not necessarily the haze machines, but these like puffs of haze flowing in from the left and bottom of the screen. So there's a lot of haze here. And I think the cinematographer in his comments was basically saying, yeah, the movie looks fine, but that's because you shot it on easy mode. You went with all low contrast filters and filled everything with haze, so you couldn't really see things that well, and they're not really supposed to look that good. Oh, well, it's easy to shoot a movie if you're not really supposed to see it and it's not supposed to look good. Congrats on your silly looking movie. That was kind of his impression.
I don't feel like I can't see the photos in the film.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think...
I really like this. I think that haze effect, the haze is mainly like interacting with light moving through the space. So it sort of makes the light more tangible. I thought it was beautiful.
Daniel Day-Lewis was not only involved in the writing and the creative direction, he was invested in learning to sew and learn how to create costumes.
Of course he was.
He spent a long time interning at various real high fashion shops, and he says...
Couturiers,
thank you. He says that he did everything he could to try to get a realistic intern's experience and not everyone be really nice to him, and he had to sew 100 buttonholes before he could touch any of the dresses, so he had to go through the process.
Yes, and there is a shot, which I'm sure he wanted in the film because he had earned it, of, I assume it is his hands sewing up close, and you see the calluses and the pricks in the calluses on his thumb. Because this is not technically how you're supposed to sew, but this is how I sew, and this is how most people sew. When you're doing a running stitch, which is the normal in out stitch, you can't see the underside. And you want the stitches to be as small as possible.
I hate this anecdote that I've heard several times before, but please continue. Because it involves you injuring yourself, but that's fine. Really. I don't really like that part, but please continue.
You can't see the underside, and you want the stitches to be as small as possible, so you don't just want to like stick the needle in however far. You want to, as soon as the needle has gone through one side, you want to sort of tilt it and then have it come through the other side. So you just sort of gently stab yourself in the finger.
I don't like stories about Libby being stabbed. I don't like that.
You're not actually piercing skin.
Okay, good.
If you're doing it right.
Great.
Occasionally I like pick up a little bit of my skin and then have to either take the needle out or rip it.
Great.
Yeah, so I recognize those calluses, and whoever's hands those are, presumably Daniel's.
I think they're Daniel's.
Did do a lot of sewing.
So yeah, As in the vast majority of his performances, Daniel Day-Lewis went full method and totally stayed in character throughout the entire performance. Libby, do you have any initial reaction to that strategic decision?
I mean, I don't know what his performance would have been like if he didn't do that. I think it probably still would have been fine.
Well,
Vicky didn't do that, and she's doing a great job too.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I think I've said this before, but has anyone ever noticed how the only people who do method actors are men when they're playing assholes?
It does seem like a great way to portray a asshole man. Apparently, it's just a very...
Do it full time?
Well, I think the idea is that it's a very natural, easy state.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of, might even say some sort of default animalistic state. And if you can just get in that mode, then now you actually are an asshole. So it's really easy to act. But yeah, definitely happened in this one. And Vicky...
Yeah. I remember hearing a story from Richard E. Grant, podcast favorite, about working on the Scorsese film with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Gangs of New York?
Nope.
Oh.
Fancier, but still New York.
Oh.
Michelle Pfeiffer,
yes,
Winona Ryder, love triangle.
It's not
The
an
Edith
affair.
Wharton novel.
The one about where he betrays her. Hold on. The Age of Innocence.
Age of Innocence.
The Age of Innocence.
Yeah, so Richard E. Grant had a smaller part in Age of Innocence. And at some point after a scene he had done with Daniel, he hadn't talked to him before. He said like, "Hi Daniel, how are you?" And Daniel just like turned away from him really rudely and stalked off. And he was like, "Okay." And another actor had to come up and say to him, "Look, Richard, don't take it personally. Daniel's character hates your character, so he's just going to be really mean to you the entire time on set." And he was. And afterwards, Daniel Day-Lewis did talk to Richard E. Grant. I don't think he apologized. I think he just
wouldn't apologize.
I think he just started treating him like a nice person that he liked once the filming was over. And yeah, I feel like if you can't do your job without being horrible to your colleagues, then I don't think you can actually do your job. I don't think that's worth it. However great Daniel Day-Lewis's performances are, I don't think it's worth making Richard E. Grant feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't put Daniel Day-Lewis in a great position. I don't think that Daniel Day-Lewis is Reynolds Woodcock and they're the same person. For example, Daniel Day-Lewis is not into, though he does like fashion, he's not into high fashion. He has a lot of tattoos. He has pierced ears. He has a different cultural identity than Reynolds Woodcock. But Daniel Day-Lewis, real life Daniel Day-Lewis, is well known for being very easy to irritate and very not shy about telling people when they irritate him outside of his acting roles. And so I don't think he's the same as Reynolds Woodcock, but it does seem that he is tapping into part of his real personality, and that part is not complimentary to Daniel Day-Lewis. And Daniel Day-Lewis, again, has the reputation as the world's greatest actor. And he's obviously an extremely talented actor. I'm not trying to make fun of him and say he's bad at it. Far from it. But he does play a lot of roles where he is a selfish, easily annoyed characters.
Hadn't thought about this, but actually kind of opposite of Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire, famously bad at playing mean and angry. Daniel Day-Lewis, very good at playing mean and angry.
He's really good at that. He's also apparently pretty good at doing that in real life.
Yes,
so,
and Fred Astaire is not. So yes.
It does work, but then we got to talk about it on the podcast, and it might not sound that great for Daniel. I don't know what to say. Vicky Krieps has not commented much on what it was like to Daniel Day-Lewis, in spite of the fact that she was asked about it many times. She has said things like, "It was always Reynolds, and it was a challenge, and normally she doesn't want to share anything beyond that." So okay. I think we can kind of fill in the lines and assume that it was always Reynolds and it was a challenge. I think that sums it up pretty well.
She had a bad time in the movie.
Yeah. PTA also wants everyone to know that he did not amplify the breakfast sounds. And those are real sounds of people spreading butter on toast. That's really what it sounds like. And if you just happen to hear someone spreading butter on toast, it might sound weird.
I mean, there was a microphone presumably in the room.
But he said he did not
That was just the normal microphone situation. He didn't do it special for that.
He says he did not place any special microphones to pick up the toast scraping sounds or in any way modify the audio volume levels from that scene. That was not part of it.
David is buttering toast right now, and I really hope the mic picks it up, because if it doesn't, then this conversation is going to be weird.
The film was released in January of...
You're not going to eat it? You're not going to take a bite? You got that crunch?
You're right. Thank you. It's delicious.
This is an ASMR podcast now.
The film was shot in January of 2018 on a $52 million budget.
It did look cold.
And it has a 49% return on investment. So it made less than $25 million in profit. And I can tell you right now, a lot more than $25 million were spent on promoting this movie and getting it a good position from award season.
And we were contributing to some of that.
That's right. We did our effort, but this movie did not make money. Far from it. But it has a 91% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is sort of interesting, considering the depth of the acclaim that this movie has received by a lot of critics and by a lot of media figures, celebrities. I mean, this is a film that a lot of people think is one of the great 100 films of all time. But there are also a lot of people who did not like the film, and it received a very controversial reception from critics. Not a bad way to promote your movie. There were a lot of comments about the beauty, the powerful acting. People had very different takes on Reynolds and Alma's relationship, and that might be even putting it mildly, calling either of them abusers, rapists, calling either of them heroes and beautiful people. Some people said they loved how the film was an ode to the genius of artistic creation and the pain. Some people said they loved how it was a takedown on this idea of the genius artistic creator, and everything in between. There have been a wide variety of reactions to the movie, and I think this is a strength of the film. I think the film puts us in some really challenging, difficult to think about situations, and does so in a way that is not only elegant enough to express them, but thoughtful and subtle enough to not force any direction. And I think this is a supreme achievement in morally complex filmmaking. But I do think it requires an acceptance that it is morally complex, and there are not conventional good guys and bad guys in the story.
Or even answers.
Yes. So to me, that's what makes this film, I think it's one of the top 100 films of all time. But if you come out of the movie thinking, I actually don't like something one of those characters did, you might be right.
If you've only ever seen movies like Funny Face before, you're not ready for Phantom Thread.
There was a lot of commentary about how it is a representation and a metaphor for all relationships, especially all partnered heterosexual relationships. And it's meant to be a discussion about how in every relationship you have to give up part of yourself and let the other person control you in some different ways. So some people, again, found it to be a threatening interpretation of relationships. Some people found it to be an inspiring interpretation of relationships.
You can be inspired by threats.
Ooh, You Can Be Inspired by Threats would be a pretty good title. But
only for this one.
Only for this one.
Do you remember what reaction you had in the, third to last scene, if we're counting the framing device as a scene?
Okay.
The omelet eating scene.
The omelet eating scene.
Where he eats the omelet.
Yes.
And the tension is absolutely cranked up to 11.
Sure.
And then he says, "Kiss me, my beautiful girl, before I'm sick."
Yes.
Do you remember what thought you had when the tension was released?
What thought I had? Well, yes, I do.
Okay.
I thought this is a horror movie. That's what I thought. And that's definitely, I think, my personal experience of the movie is that I think this might be the greatest horror movie of all time. And I mean that as a compliment, because I feel like, I guess I'm on the side that doesn't really find it an inspiring love story. That doesn't mean it's not an effective analysis of the challenges and the joys of relationships. But what I was thinking was something like, wow, these people have gotten themselves into a situation where they are doing this to each other, and they're like, this is good. This is how I want it to be. That makes sense, and I believe it. But also, I find it horrifying. It made me think, don't let yourself get into this situation. This is what you're trying to avoid. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
How about you?
My gut reaction when the tension was released was, I'm so glad these two are together. Which I think a lot of people would interpret as, they're perfect for each other. Their relationship is so beautiful. And maybe I do a little bit mean that, but I also mean I'm so glad these two have taken each other out of the dating pool.
Yes.
Because they're both absolute freaks who cannot be with anybody else. As we've established with Reynolds, you cannot be with anybody else.
Yes. I think that's pretty good analysis, frankly. I mean, Vicky has said that she sees this as a feminist epic. And to her, the story is about a woman who refuses to suffer abuse and indefinitely, and finds a way, by hook or by crook, to assert her independence and find the relationship that she deserves. And I do think, I come back over and over again to the superb video essay by Rowan Ellis, the good for her, about the idea of the good for her genre, which I cannot recommend that video essay enough. Please link it in the description of this video.
Okay.
We've done it before, and we're going to do it again.
We also talked about it in our murder mystery episode,
yes.
episode 2, when we talked about
Knives Out.
Knives Out, yes.
Yes. So that's a really, really good YouTube video. And I think this is interesting because I would say this film is a great good for her movie. It is a movie, the good for her genre sort of being about the idea that the difficult fact that in order to deal with the challenges of patriarchy and sexism, women can't play by the rules. And that there is a growing genre of movie about how women have to not play by the rules in order to be healthy and safe. And I think this fits that story perfectly. And it is legitimately an inspiring story about a woman who refuses to do what she's supposed to do and takes control of her life by hook or by crook. So I find that inspiring. At the same time, a key part of that is she does it by violating somebody's consent and putting them in a really unpleasant and manipulative, maybe even sexually manipulative role that they didn't agree to.
And that threatens their life.
And I don't know how to put this best, but while that makes for a very dramatic, good for her story, yeah, that could only be a good for her story. If were the gender roles flipped in this movie, nobody would find it inspiring in the slightest. And people who violate other people without consent, even if it turns out later on that they liked it, don't get a thumbs up in my book. I mean, that's kind of like classic rapist language and a classic rapist way to think about things. And if we look at all the other situations that we all have heard of in history from different types of people who have those relationships, we wouldn't approve of them then, and I can't approve of this now.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that tension. I think it's great, and I think it's...
Movies are allowed to be about bad people.
It can be about bad people who do things that are understandable, and where some aspects of the things that they're doing are good, and other aspects are bad. I am so fine with that, and I think the way this film handles it is brilliant. Just about perfect.
And also, what an indictment of the world, society, blah, 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 that the only way a woman can be in a healthy relationship is to make a man be in an unhealthy relationship.
And there are so many... It's not like this is just Vicky's deepest desire is to abuse Reynolds without his consent.
By Vicky, do you mean Alma?
Yes, thank you. Alma's deepest desire is to abuse Reynolds without their consent. I think she would have preferred that there be a different mechanism for them to build a relationship that they're both happy with. But as you say, for social, interpersonal reasons, she's not provided for that. I also think it's difficult to talk about that aspect, the interpersonal drama of it, with... I love to take my realist tone, and not to say that interpersonal relationships aren't happening in real life, but I do think...
They're all imaginary.
Yes, I do think we have to take an even more cynical tone to some extent when we look at the movie, because an effective aspect of the plot that's only rarely referenced directly is the fact that, like, Reynolds is really rich and is making a lot of money. And to some extent, he has found himself in these toxic relationships with women because... they want access to his brand. Now, I think the film also, like we were talking about before, kind of goes out of the way to point out that it's not that Reynolds is just so talented and they're like leeching off of his talent. He's just famous. He just has a brand that people know about, and he's riding off on his brand that's actually dying because he's not actually that talented. He's not actually that innovative or necessarily a fashion genius. He just worked his way into this position. And so, but he's making a lot of money. And to some extent, this is a story about Alma and maybe even Cyril controlling Reynolds and becoming the people that really get to control the institution of the House of Woodcock. And Alma is somebody that starts off on the bottom of that structure and ends up at the top. In fact, in the closing shots, we're basically implied that she is really the new leader of the House of Woodcock, and Reynolds is kind of in the back as the figurehead that people know about, but she's the one that's really managing the process. And at the beginning, she's maybe, it's not even clear that she's being paid. She's sort of there maybe as his unpaid girlfriend who is forced to work for him in his fashion sweatshop. And so that is an inspiring story in its own way about, again, a woman who does what it takes to beat prejudice and put herself in a position of power. It doesn't actually seem to have changed anything about the way the institution works. There are still all of these other people at the bottom who are suffering, and she doesn't really seem that concerned about that. That's not part of her goal.
I wish we'd gotten a little bit more about what Cyril's new situation is in the epilogue.
She's chill with it?
I think Cyril
just pushing the baby carriage?
In the epilogue confused me. Like, if she hadn't been there, I would have been like, oh, we got rid of Cyril. Cyril's not important anymore. She's getting a stipend. But the fact that she is there and, like, they leave the baby with her, so, like, she's not going to murder the baby. They trust her enough to leave the baby with her while they go on a little walk. I was like, I want to know more. How is she fine with this? How has her life changed? Is the hierarchy at the beginning of the film is Cyril Reynolds' girlfriend. Now it is Alma, but then who's next? Cyril Reynolds.
Yeah. I mean, I think the impression that we do see of this brief glimpse of her in the final scenes is supposed to be that she's chill with it, and she is pretty happy to be number 2 in the house after Alma, and that's a setup that everyone's satisfied with. I think it does kind of lead to an interesting question of, there's this sort of pivotal moment in the film where Cyril sort of refuses to help Reynolds get rid of Alma because she says that she's grown very fond of her. And I think I'm a little...
Oh, I don't think she's refusing to get rid of her. She brings up, do you want me to tell Alma to leave?
After that, I think, right?
No, I've grown very fond of her is in the... It's a line echoed from the opening sequence where she says... do you want me to get rid of Joanna? He says, yes, and then goes off to find his new girlfriend. Cyril says, do you want me to get rid of Alma?
Right.
And we're like, ooh, how will the scene have changed from the first situation? Yeah, that's when she says, I've grown very fond of her. I don't want to get rid of Alma. I want to get rid of Alma. But like they talk about the girlfriends are just sort of waiting around for Reynolds to dump them. Cyril is also waiting around for him to
dump them.
She's waiting around for Reynolds to build up enough irritation with his girlfriend, because he will build up irritation with any person he has to interact with other than Cyril, apparently. She waits until he builds up enough irritation for her to be able to kick them out.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, we sort of see this clear strategy of Cyril. Cyril wants the money. That's, I think, Cyril's goal. Cyril is a businesswoman.
I think she maybe also likes some prestige.
Maybe. She doesn't seem to have any desire to be in a public-facing position or get any fame for her work. Yeah. So maybe.
I think maybe she likes the nice things. She's not specifically a wealth hoarder, but she likes the nice house. She likes their perfect breakfasts.
She wants to live their luxurious lifestyle. That's her goal. Maintain luxurious lifestyle. As she tries to sometimes explain and remind Reynolds that they have to actually do work to make money so they can have luxuries. And so her strategy is sort of, well, Cyril needs a muse, but I think Reynolds needs a muse. I actually think the muse part is nothing to do with it. Reynolds needs a sexual companion. Yeah. That's not me. So that's going to happen. That's unavoidable. But I want to make sure that this person is always somebody that Reynolds doesn't really like, so that I'm the person that Reynolds was close with, and I can control the money. And so at the beginning, we're kind of given this impression that she's going out of her way to create conflict between Reynolds and whatever girl he has around at the time, and always to make clear to the girl that she's on top and she's just the girlfriend. But I think an interesting question is, does Cyril, when she says I've grown very fond of her, does she mean it? Is she being honest in that scene? Does she mean it by the end of the movie? Has she grown fond of her? And at the beginning of the movie, was she?
And I would like to know.
I think that at the beginning of the movie, she is not fond of her, and she has this totally cynical relationship with Alma. I believe that when she says, I have grown very fond of her, I think she is being, in a large part, genuine there. And I think this is maybe, to read between the lines, something that she almost finds herself surprised to say. This is sort of a moment of realization for her. That's like, well, Alma's kind of cool. She's kind of badass. She's standing up to you in a way that's more effective that I didn't realize was really possible. And so I think she is growing in admiration for Alma. And I think by the end of it, when Alma sort of achieves what Cyril has been trying to achieve the whole time, to tame Reynolds and to keep him under control and have him directed, have him not mess up the business they've created. I think the impression that I see from her and her one face that we see of her, she's like, great, finally, so now the house is being properly managed and I can have access to my luxuries without having to worry about it. So that's my interpretation, that there is a gradual warming. But you seem more suspicious.
Yeah, I think, well, at the beginning, I wouldn't quite say that Cyril dislikes Alma. I think she knows that there is going to be an Alma. She's maybe a little bit surprised that it happened this fast, but maybe this is the normal turnaround rate.
I think she just wants it to be a short-lived relationship so that no person has a lot of influence over Reynolds.
But I think she thinks Alma is an easy candidate. I think she thinks Alma is an easy target.
Easy mark.
To get Reynolds to dislike so that we can get rid of her fast.
Well, she's kind of right. Alma is very good at annoying Reynolds and, making a lot of noise at breakfast and stuff, so that's just a natural way for her to react.
Yes. So I think she hasn't taken into account the fact that Alma might not be willing to put up with bullshit, but still remain committed to the relationship.
Do you think that Alma is being too loud at breakfast?
I mean, I think everybody else is being too quiet. So
I see.
I think, dear Reynolds, if you want to have a quiet time for you to do your croquis, not at the breakfast table, maybe.
What are croquis?
It's a fashion sketch.
That's what those are called.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are going to be noises associated with breakfast, and apparently Cyril has gotten really good at eating her breakfast totally silently. Does she go for a croissant, like a pastry situation? Maybe I remember seeing her drink coffee. I don't remember seeing her eat food. Maybe she only drinks coffee at breakfast, and she actually eats food later, away from Reynolds, so she doesn't have to worry about making too much noise. Because I don't think they would eat pastries because they're a little bit naughty, as Reynolds would say. I do think it's interesting that Reynolds does appear to have an eating disorder.
That's definitely implied.
And that the solution to the film has to do with what he eats.
Yes. Well, this film has been taken up as a foodie movie. Foodies love this movie, and it's been put on a lot of top 10 food movies list. A somewhat threatening interpretation of the food movie, indeed. Yeah, I mean, I think, reading between the lines a little bit, it's kind of implied that this eating disorder is something he's sort of inheriting from his relationship with his mother, who had a very exacting style and who he was very close with / obsessed with.
I mean, he's also in the fashion industry, an industry known for its eating disorders. He does order a ridiculously large breakfast when he first meets Alma. Do we see him eat it? Does he eat all of it?
Yeah, we don't see him eat all of it, but he eats some of it.
Okay.
That guy, what he loves is he loves sausages. That guy loves sausages. He's kind of obsessed with them. He seems to have I think part of the movie is about celebrating breakfast food over dinner food.
Yeah.
And everybody loves breakfast food. It's so easy and people like it. But then we eat this dinner food and it's supposed to be fancy and you don't really like it and you have to eat vegetables.
Yes, they meet so beautifully over breakfast.
Breakfast is great.
And then dinner is the bad date.
And they do have their breakfast conflict, but the breakfast conflict is not, everyone is not just able to totally focus on enjoying their delicious breakfast food and they're being distracted from that. So yeah, breakfast food good, dinner food bad. I think that is one of the messages of this movie.
I think you're right, PTA. All meals should be breakfast.
I'm a fan of breakfast food. Who isn't? That's the point.
They're very high fat. That's why they're tasty.
I do think, and well, it's somewhat to your point. That's a case where it's socially acceptable to eat high-fat food. No, your mom's not going to be mad at you for eating sausages. You're supposed to eat sausages at breakfast. So that is the one place where Reynolds can nourish himself.
Yeah. And also scrambled eggs. I don't think he gets scrambled eggs. I think he gets eggs on... Do you remember what his order was? I don't remember
what his order is.
I think he gets...
He does get eggs.
Benedict.
I don't remember him saying the word Benedict, but I really don't know.
Yeah, eggs are very easy to just sneak a lot of butter into.
So that's fine. Doesn't have to feel bad about himself and doesn't feel the ghost of his mom haunting him as he eats his normal food. Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson said that the breakfast scenes are the mile markers of the film, and you can measure how the film is going by how the breakfast scene is going. So that was the intention for sure.
You could maybe just do the breakfast scenes, or can we throw out all of the scenes that aren't at meals? That's
interesting. I mean, we need the scenes of Alma preparing the mushrooms,
right?
With the thimble.
Cooking and eating. Cooking and eating scenes. Can we have the movie with just that?
I mean,
it becomes a little bit more esoteric, but
it does. I
think it still functions. It's kind of like Hamlet, but just the soliloquies.
I mean, we maybe this. I think one of the most important scenes of the movie is the scene where Reynolds discover that one of his clients has gone to a new house, and he's like, "Oh, they went to the chic house."
He's got the fucking chic.
What does chic even mean? What does chic even mean? The intention there is kind of to show that Reynolds is not a genius dress designer.
Yeah.
And he's not actually prepared for this to be some billion-dollar brand. That's not going to be happen. He doesn't really know what he's doing.
He does make the wedding dress for a princess.
Okay, so, but he's a millionaire already, but he's not going to be a billionaire. It's not going to happen because he's honestly not that good. He's not very creative. He's just recreating the same dresses he's seen in the past.
I mostly don't like the dresses that he puts Alma in.
Yeah, I looked around and tried to find a detailed listing of all of the dresses in the movie. I wanted to do a dress-by-dress review, but let's just try to do the ones I was able to... And maybe you can help me to clarify some of the confusion I had about what the dresses are. So the first dress we see is the Countess's dress. And I remember you said it has a lopsided collar, and you didn't like it.
Oh, it's not inherently lopsided, but just like when she puts it on, it needed to be adjusted. And I felt like Reynolds would have done that. And Daniel didn't, which means he's not really Reynolds Woodcock. Apparently, you need to spend more time in character, Daniel.
I mean...
Not enough?
I think if Daniel had spent 10 more years working at Couturier as a dressmaker, then he would have made a better movie. I think that is true.
I mean, I think anyone can see that the collar is crooked.
Oh, I'm seeing a picture of a collar. It doesn't really look crooked to me. I don't really see it.
The white thing?
It's hard because it's against a white background, so it's a bit hard to see. So then we come to... I think the next one we see is the dress that he begins making on their first date, with that very distinctive purple color. You also said, I don't think that color is very good.
Yeah, I don't think that's not the most beautiful color, sort of soft purpley, lavendery situation. I don't think it's very good on Vicky, who's a redhead. And I think the bodice looks really stiff and also plain. If you want something to be plain, then normally you'll create visual interest through like the draping of the fabric. The fabric needed to be more beautiful if it was going to be that understated.
I'm a bit confused because there's that dress, and then there's also a dress we see later, which is clearly designed to be an impression of the dress that her waitress dress, her waitressing dress.
So dress number 20, which is it's a dress that she wears in the...
Does it say number 20 in the movie?
Yeah, she's holding number 20.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Because it's in the fashion show.
Yes, that's right. Is that the date dress or is that a different dress?
That's a different dress.
Different dress. Okay, thank you.
But maybe you guys didn't notice this, but dress number 20 is a couture version of her waitress outfit.
Right.
It's white. It's got the buttons down the front. It's red. It's with the buttons down the front. It's got
the white apron
collar, and then there's this lace applique that is affecting the apron.
Yes.
I thought it was very interesting. I'm not sure why that dress was used in that scene.
You mean in the fashion show?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that he remade the dress that he first saw her in his own vision. But that's not the scene I would have put it in.
I think the clear intention there is to be that, to some extent, when Reynolds is first falling for Alma, what he's really seeing is, oh, this person is modeling this dress really well at my breakfast. Mm-hmm. And he's seeing her as an object, as a tool for his empire, where he's going to present her in this dress to the world, and she's going to make the dress a success. And so I think we are meant to conclude, oh, this was actually maybe his top priority his whole time. His whole priority was, get that lady in this dress in my fashion show.
But that's not the dress that he makes for her first.
You're right. But I do think that's what...
Do you think he's being considerate, being like, here's a dress for you?
No.
First?
I think he's being insulting and being like, this is the dress you belong in.
No, I mean by making her own dress.
Yes.
First.
I do think that is an attempt to...
so here's a gift for you.
Pull her in.
And the next dress is going to be a gift for me.
This is really... That dress was my price to get you to wear this dress in my show.
But that dress, I don't think that's hers. I mean, presumably that dress is for sale.
I don't know. It's kind of confusing. Yeah. It's not clear if they're making multiple copies or what. I mean, I think...
one of the dresses in the fashion show is a replica in different colors of the Countess's dress that we see at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Maybe it's my proletarian fashion talking, but I think the couture waitress dress is maybe the best dress in the movie. Yeah, I think it looks great. It looks really good.
I really like it, and its role in the story is very good.
Yeah, I think it's the star dress of the film. It's probably one that has received the most comment on.
And I'm wondering if they made the other dresses that Vicky wears less good to make that one stand out more.
Well, to jump forward in the list a little bit, then, so there's the couture waitress dress. The one we see after that is the green wedding reception dress that I guess plays the biggest role in the plot of any particular dress.
Barbara
Rose's dress that I guess...
Barbara Rose was great, by the way.
Are you a big fan?
Great job of playing a terrible person.
I did feel like it was a very powerful and interesting performance. Yeah. I did feel like it is playing a bit into a stereotype, kind of a pretty sexist stereotype of like 50s person. Ladies are dumb and they only like dresses. Or something along those lines.
I don't think she only likes dresses. She doesn't like the dress. She's not
maybe only like dresses is the wrong way to put it.
She's just really drunk.
Do you think she's drunk at the fitting?
Yeah, she's drunk the whole time.
She's drunk the whole time? Well...
She's acting like a drunk person. Or, I don't know, maybe she's had a lobotomy or something. But
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel a bit weird about it, even though it is entertaining, obviously. And of course, it's her that I think one of the super key moments in the plot. There are a lot of subtle key plot moments in this movie. Sorry. But another really key moment is when they're at the press conference for her wedding, and her husband gets that difficult question that he ignores about selling visas to Jews during the war. And that's when we cut to Vicky's all too knowing face, and we basically realize that she is a Holocaust survivor, and that's part of her story of fleeing the horrible things that were going on in the Low Countries under the Nazi occupation, which we got a chance to touch on before.
And also maybe a reason why she, quote, has no breasts.
Mm-hmm.
She was malnourished, a la Audrey Hepburn, also a visibly malnourished person, even decades after.
Maybe something to be said about the fact that these people become in high demand as fashion models and actresses and the like, because that's the look that society impresses on these people.
I can't tell you how upset I am that like Audrey Hepburn is treated as a model of beauty, not because she is ugly, but because like that is an unhealthy person.
It's a definitionally unhealthy. It's a person with a medical problem that is not good for them. Yeah, I really know what you mean. Barbara Rose is playing a big role in the plot there, but again, as a villain. Yeah. So after that is where we get to, I think, the surprise dinner dress. And this is definitely the most interesting dress. It's probably the most creatively designed and modern looking dress. And my analysis...
I don't remember what it looks like.
Okay. I think we're led to believe that Alma is the person that has designed and produced this dress. Because Reynolds seems totally surprised when he sees it. And it's done in such a different visual style than all of Reynolds' other work. It's noticeably asymmetrical. All of Reynolds' work is obsessively symmetrical. And this one has this very distinct asymmetrical cut in the top half. And it's definitely done in a more modern, dare I say, chic style.
Some of his dresses are asymmetrical.
Oh? Is that dress supposed to be asymmetrical?
Yeah, look at the skirt, the draping on the skirt.
Oh, okay. You're right. Well, it's much more asymmetrical than any of his other pieces. So my I think what we're supposed to interpret, and I was trying to watch carefully for it, and I think there are some shots that kind of establish this beforehand, but I'm going to have to watch this again to track everything. But I think that
this movie really does reward rewatching.
It really does. I think that is Alma's dress, not Reynolds' dress. And so it sort of is looking forward into the story about how Alma is beginning her not only stand for personal independence in their relationship, but her attempt to take over the House of Woodcock and become its leading creative and directing force, which she succeeds at by the end of the film. So this one, this surprise dinner dress has basically one sleeve on and one sleeve off. And it's done in, I guess I would say, a slightly more full-skirted style. So again, it is a forward-looking dress of the new look almost.
I mean, New Look is 10 years old at this point.
I guess you're right.
Or sorry, this film isn't actually set in 1957. I think this is a little bit earlier than 1957.
You're right. I think they said 52 at some point.
Okay, yeah, I just had 57 in my head from Freddy.
I think this is hot. Alma is in a chic dress for the time. She is in what is chic for that time. And Reynolds seems kind of astounded, maybe even intimidated by this. And I think he is realizing that he is not a genius. Other people can do what he does, maybe even better.
It's also red, which one, classic sexy color.
Sure.
2, I don't think that's her waitress outfit. That's the waitress outfit color. And all of the other dresses he makes for her are not red.
Well, there's one that's purple, but I know what you mean. Definitely not that.
He makes a lavender one. He makes a sort of olive green one. He makes...
The date dress is purple, right? The first dress he starts making for her on their date. Okay, yeah.
He does that one with that rare lace, which is purple. But I don't think he makes her any other red dresses.
I think you're right.
It is also, that is when she is serving food to him.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It is interesting how close to the end the omelet scene is.
This is good. I always say you gotta have your climax be as close to the end as possible.
I think in a standard screenplay, that scene has to be 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the movie. Mm-hmm. And it is a bold decision to really put the climax at the end. But it's great. It really makes for an exciting end. I remember walking out of the theater and being like, well, that was quite a movie that I just watched.
Yeah.
So leaving you with that feeling is powerful. Okay, so then to finish off our dress rundown, the next one I was going to track is the one that Alma, he makes for one of his clients, and then Alma goes down and says that it's satisfactory, and he yells at her about it for a while. And then that's when she decides to
that green one?
Poison him again. She's like, well, if you're going to treat me like that green one. I don't know. Did you find that one satisfactory? Satisfactory is the right answer?
I liked it. I think it looked good on the woman who was wearing it. I think a lot of his dresses don't look good on Alma.
Yeah, I do think in general, one thing that I felt watching it this time was that I think that Reynolds is not a very good dress designer, and I don't think his dresses are very beautiful. But what I think he is good at, and what has led to his success, is he is good at making dresses that kind of complement the wearer, and that help them present themselves the way they want to be presented to the world. Mm-hmm. You know, the grand opulence of Barbara Rose's dress. Is Barbara Rose her first name? Is that the idea?
I have no idea.
I'm confused. I think that's her.
And also it has a bit you can roll up to hide your face.
You roll up to hide your face because she needs that. So I do think he's very good at designing dresses for a particular person in both a complimentary way and understanding what a person wants out of their dress, which is, he is a custom dressmaker. That is his job. And I do think he is actually very insightful at that. I think he's good at reading and manipulating women, and dresses are the way that he can do that. And then the last one is the dress that Alma appears to have led the direction of, that we see in the final shots. But we only see a couple of shots of that one.
I mean, you left out the princess's wedding dress.
Oh, I did leave out the princess's wedding dress. What do you think of the princess's wedding dress?
Hello, these are my breasts is not really what I think the message should be at a royal wedding. I mean, I thought it was interesting. He says they show this dress in practically panorama, and I'm like, don't like that.
He doesn't seem to like it very much.
And then he says, "You've done a very good job, ladies. It's just not very good." And then he ruins it, and then they don't change it all. I mean, I guess they don't have time.
They can't.
But I was like, maybe this is an opportunity to do something slightly different. Despite all the couture dresses, the outfit that was most striking to me was Reynolds' negligee, where he comes down to asparagus dinner in his pajamas with an ascot. We're dressed up.
And a vest.
And a knit vest.
And a sport jacket?
I believe it's a tweed jacket with elbow patches. What a strong look. I love it.
I mean, I know it's the point.
I'm pretty close to being able to recreate that outfit with things that I own, and I might.
Do you have an ascot?
I have rectangles of fabric.
Okay. Yeah, it's clearly a outfit which he has scientifically engineered to be as disrespectful to the nice dinner that his romantic partner has made for him as possible. So, in a way, that is one of the moments where I most hated Reynolds. Yeah. I was like, really, dude?
It's a three-piece suit, but the base is pajamas.
How can I really hurt this person's feelings? What could I do that would really make them feel sad? That's what I'm going to do today. Well, you know, that's also a scene where we double down on Reynolds' particular desire to have his asparagus prepared a certain way. Oil, not butter, because of course oil and butter are two totally distinct substances. Yeah. Butter has nothing to do with oil.
If I had been Alma, I would have been like that. I would have been butter isn't oil, so shut the fuck up. Yeah. It's all lipids, baby.
And it does kind of make me wonder on the subject of being a good romance partner. I don't know, maybe you have some insight of what it might be like to be partnered with somebody who is an extremely picky eater and will not eat the clearly well-made and delicious food that you make sometimes. Did you have any comments on that? You want this on the pod? It doesn't have to be, but, you know, that's the purpose. We got to share the truth with the people.
I want so much to be able to express my love for you through food. And I can't. Because you are only interested in maybe a quarter of the things that I want to make.
A sad truth, but appropriate for the film.
Yeah. And I can keep going. And I think that your food hang-ups are not actually real. I think that they're trained, and I could train you out of them, but you refuse to let me.
You may be right. And I may be crazy. Another thing is that this movie also features some double feature doubles. We can't forget them. There's the Countess was also in
Gina
Scenes
McKee,
of a Sexual Nature.
Yes, and Camilla Rutherford was Isabel from episode 2, Gosford Park. She's much older now. And I think the same amount of time has passed between the settings of the films, or close to the same amount of time has happened between the settings of the films and real life. So I am imagining that Joanna, the first girlfriend, is Isabel. And I think that actually makes a good amount of sense. I could see that being Isabel's life trajectory. She's got a secret kid.
The Gosford Park cinematic universe, which I guess is sort of already established because there's a TV show and maybe other things that reference it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I guess Downton Abbey is not supposed to be is it supposed to be part of the continuity with Gosford Park? Okay, no.
Unrelated.
All right, well.
Julian Fellows just has a style.
He just has a style, fair enough. Too much haze or not, the camera work in this film is impeccable, and it does such a great job of bringing the tactile sensations of the world around them to life, and the framing tightens so much as their relationship becomes more claustrophobic, so it's just really well shot movie. Last question, Libby. Why is this movie called Phantom Thread? What does the title mean?
No fucking clue. PT.
I have an answer, but the PT answer is one I never considered. It's like, oh, wow, I think we figured it out. I mean, I think there are several ways where we could say there's like the past is controlling the future. And particularly the literal ghost of Reynolds and Cyril's mother, who makes her brief appearance in the film, is controlling him. I mean, it's really the presence of, or the appearance of that ghost that tells Reynolds to put a ring on it, basically, his mother appearing in the wedding dress. Of course, that gives us the world's worst wedding vows that we get at their incredibly stodgy English wedding, but that's fitting for the story, so beautiful. And also, there's this really, I guess, important moment where we see when we look through one of the dresses at the end that Reynolds has sewn this tag that says "Never Cursed" into the film, because there's this whole apparent superstition, which I've never heard of, that if you work on a wedding dress, you'll never get married. I think they made that up for this movie, but they made everybody believe in it, so good enough. And so he apparently really believes that he is cursed and he will never be happy because he makes wedding dresses, and so he has sewed this thing, sort of this fear that the ghosts of the past are controlling him now. That's what I think the title's about.
And Alma takes it out.
That's right. Alma's like, I'm done with your stupid superstitions. We're getting married. Just watch. Oh, one last question. Do you think Reynolds knows that the omelet is poisoned when he eats it the second time?
Yes. I
totally agree with you.
I think that's the point.
He sees Alma pulling out the book. I've read several articles where people said, he doesn't know at all, and he only figures it out. He's just mad because he didn't make the omelet the way he wanted, and only when she says that thing afterwards, then he figures it out. Yeah. And I'm like, did you people even watch this movie?
She's so obviously sinister in her attitudes, and also in the fact that she doesn't serve anything to herself. She serves him an omelet, and then just stares at him.
Yeah.
And I really liked the dynamic there with the like. He's figuring it out while she's cooking.
Yeah.
And then she serves it to him and he's like, I know.
Yeah.
And she's like,
I know you know.
Yeah. Are you going to eat it anyway?
Mm-hmm. He figures it out because she pulls out the book about poison mushrooms. And he's like, why is she oh, she's been poisoning me the whole time. I just figured it out. Yeah. And it's funny that at the beginning, when he gets poisoned, he refuses to let the doctor see him. But once Alma has taken over his life, he's a good boy, and he will let the doctor see him. Partially because then he and Alma have won over on the doctor, and he can still be sort of dominating the doctor, and he doesn't feel like he's in a weak position in that situation.
I also think if Alma doesn't know that he knows, then the line "I want you flat on your back" is very confusing.
It's like, now she's just confessing everything.
Why are you saying that now?
Because now she's ready to reveal the truth.
Yeah, no. You guys need to get better at interpreting films.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think maybe the best shot in the movie, because you mentioned the doctor, is the one where he is downstairs smoking and reading the Vogue magazine before he gets brought up to visit Reynolds. That is just such a nice shot. It's kind of like what we had in the Nosferatu episodes. It's easy to do a good shot if you put a lot of smoke in the scene. That's kind of the theme of the whole movie, actually.
The shot that I really like isn't that smoky. It's when Alma has gone out to the Chelsea New Year's ball.
Oh, yeah?
And we see Reynolds alone being like, no, I want to be miserable. No. And so we see her come down the stairs, and the camera is in the stairwell looking through a door, an archway, to Reynolds sitting at the table. And you see like one of his feet kind of sticking out awkwardly, and he's only kind of half on camera. And she walks out the door, and he sort of leans over. I like that shot. So we went for our default chronological order. We'd also actually seen both of these films before, and this is the order we decided to watch them in. David, was this the correct order?
I don't know. I don't know. Because so much of what Phantom Thread is responding to is the glamorization of fashion that Funny Face represents. So that makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, Funny Face is actually set chronologically after Phantom Thread. And, you know, part of Phantom Thread is that there's a lot of cultural weird things going on in the world and the world of fashion. You know, London and Paris are two of the only cities that kind of remain on the continent. There's been a massive cloth shortage, so people are sort of flooding in and trying to create the glamour. And so Funny Face is actually, from its internal plot, is about the world of fashion that's being created in the Phantom Thread story. And kind of, again, looking forward to the next culture, to the hippie culture, and sort of asking how these two things are going to fit together. The answer is pop art, Andy Warhol. But we're working, and it comes up with the answer during the film, as a matter of fact. So, from a fashion perspective, Funny Face is responding to Phantom Thread, even though from a cultural perspective, Phantom Thread is responding to Funny Face. So I'm pretty torn. What do you think?
Yeah, I think your historical argument is valid, but mood-wise, I think the climax of Phantom Thread is so late in the film, so intense and so like complex that if you watch another film, especially one as cute as Funny Face afterwards, you're not actually going to be watching it. I think you're going to you need like a solid 2 hours to mull over Phantom Thread. And if Funny Face happens to be playing during those 2 hours, you're not going to get any enjoyment out of Funny Face.
Yeah, you're right.
Think about, you watch him eat that omelet, and then 10 minutes later, you're watching Think Pink.
Yeah.
That's a wild ride.
Yeah. It's going to be impossible to take Funny Face seriously right after watching Phantom Thread. You're right. So, no, we did it in the right order.